Hi and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Sky Forms. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening June 24th through the 30th, 2022. And this show, it comes on the heels of show number 159, both being launched today. I'm just trying to pick up some photos that might have fallen between the cracks that I didn't feature yet, and because I got thrown out of sequence a little bit with my previous show, which captured a daytime uncloaked craft for once. It was very exciting. Anyway, let's get into this show this time around. Here's an alternate cover slide and also very interesting forms happening in the sky, and we'll cover both of these cover slides coming up in the show. But before we get there, I want to include two words, wisdom, and spirit of the day pages this time around, touching on the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Sabe, Yowie, Yeti, Tree People, Forest Giant, whatever you want to call it, topic, depending on where in the world they are occurring. I have covered some Bigfoot things in the past and given you the recommended sites and channels and podcasts and places to go to hear more. In this case, I just want to include some excerpts from the website called native-languages.org, and they actually had a nice little paragraph here. I'll read it straight out as quick as I can, just in case people are just listening to this show as audio as you're going around and going about your business and not looking at the images. And after all of this, we'll get into the $6 Million Man, some fun stuff, images from that, and then get into the sky observations portion of the show. So I'm just going to read here directly from the website. They say, quote, if we interpret the English word Bigfoot in quotes to refer only to creatures like Sasquatch, wild hairy men of the forest that are human-sized or slightly taller, then here is our list of Native American Bigfeet. Note that most of these legends are told by tribes of the Pacific Northwest region, Northern California, Western Oregon, and Washington State, British Columbia, Alaska, and the Yukon. There are also many stories involving wild hairy men of the forest in the plains and woodland tribes of the U.S., but most of those are forest dwarves, no taller than a human toddler. You can find some stories about them on our Native American Little People page. They have many similarities to the Bigfoot creatures except for their size. Now, to the right from this same article on this website, they do break down a list of all the various names that are possible for Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. In this case, I'll just read through quickly, and I hope I do justice to the pronunciations. Anybody who knows the true pronunciations, forgive me if I don't get it exactly right. But anyway, we apparently have the Bawis, the Sentient Indian Bigfoot, the Box, Belacula Bigfoot, Bush Indians, and the Alaskan Athabascan Bigfoot. Sentiments there. Chietanka, the Sioux, Chonito, Night People, from the Wenatchee, Hairy Man, the Yokuts, Kounehe, the Maidu, Larian, the Dogrip, Lofa, Chickasaw, Mata, Kagmi, Modak, Maximista, the Cheyenne, Nain, the Gwich'in, Nakani, the Dene, Nantina, the Tanaina, Nik Inla Inna, from the Koyukon, Oma, from the Hupa, Sasquatch, the Coast Salish or Salish, Seatico, Klalam, Champe, Choctaw, Siatko, Chehalis, Shokum, the Chinook, Steyehama, the Yakama, Stick Indians, the Northwest Coast Bigfeet, the Woodsman, from the Athabascan Indian Bigfoot. So hopefully I did not, hopefully I did those names justice. But it just gives you an idea that it depends on what region and locale that you're going to have all these different names for them, as would be similar in Australia. So you have the Yowie, but depending on what region you're in, there are going to be all different kinds of native names for them as well. All right, so now let's get into the tongue-in-cheek fun side of all of this. With my watching the $6 Million Man 1974 episode of this Bigfoot. It's very interesting because I would have been 5-ish at this time when I first saw this, and I forgot that this would have been my first impression of Bigfoot, even before it really landed home a little bit harder in the 1977 Star Wars A New Hope movie. But even after watching these, getting a little bit predictive programming coming my way through these as a young kid. I don't know. Even Chewbacca, it was a Bigfoot, yes, but I didn't quite associate that with what I saw with these Bigfoot episodes in $6 Million Man. And I remember being kind of terrified of this. He was a bionic Bigfoot, actually, a bio-bionic Bigfoot, as you learn in the series. So, spoiler alert, don't listen to me on this next section of this. So, if you haven't seen it and you're not going to see it, this is for you. So, I'll just kind of go through the storyboard here. I took excerpts from it off the TV screen. So, first of all, let me go back a step of if you haven't seen the $6 Million Man from the 70s, here's a little quote, an excerpt coming from an article, What's Going On with the $6 Billion Man by Adam Holmes. So there's talk of actor Mark Wahlberg wanting to make the $6 Billion Man kind of revamp, the notion of the $6 Million Man to modern times. But for the original, the classic that we're all familiar with, or a lot of us are, it goes like this. The premise is, in case you're not familiar with the $6 Million Man, which aired on ABC, American Broadcasting Company, from 1973 to 1978 and was followed by 3 TV movies between 1987 and 1994. The series featured Lee Majors as Colonel Steve Austin, who was badly injured in a NASA test flight and outfitted with bionic implants through an operation that cost, well, that much should be obvious. With his strength, speed, and vision enhanced, Austin carried out dangerous missions for the Office of Scientific Intelligence, which they abbreviate as OSI. Of course, with inflation, naturally, such an operation would cost way more nowadays, hence the title being changed to The $6 Billion Man for the cinematic realm. Okay, that's just a little backstory there. So, storyboard on this specific episode from 1974. Bam! One, we have the appearance of Sasquatch, but he's backlit, so you can't really get an idea of his face. And he comes on the scene as, of course, 2 scientists are checking seismographic activity in the mountains, in and around the mountains and lakes of California, near the San Andreas fault line somewhere. So now we've got the team, and this is Steve Austin to the right and his boss to the left of OSI. And they're working with a specialist who, of course, has to be a Native American Indian on this story. And he's got the necklace to make sure you know that he is Native American. Anyhow, of course, he's got to be there because he's the expert in the forest and the tracker and all of this. So now they come in and they can't find the scientists, of course, and the last thing they hear is them screaming as a roaring Sasquatch comes up upon them. So now we have them all looking down and examining the footprint at number 3 here. And then let's just say the tracker part of the crew, he comes back, of course, with a plaster cast to show you, yes, indeed, that is one damn big footprint, and it's a Bigfoot. Then we've got Bigfoot coming into their military camp because they're trying to debate how they're going to avert some of these earthquakes that are happening. And so this bionic Bigfoot, we find out later, Bio-Bionic, at first you think he's just a real Bigfoot. He comes in and wrecks their entire camp. And then, of course, Steve, the bionic man that he is going to go after and try to find this Bigfoot, and they confront each other. And you get a good look at his face, who actually, the Bigfoot here is played by Andre the Giant of wrestler fame. So now we go to a scene where we see a group of people in a weird light, that are viewing the scene of Steve and Bigfoot squaring off. And then you come to find out that these are ETs. They're aliens living in a colony in the mountains in California. And so apparently this one over here, she's the scientist who sends out this creation of a Bigfoot that she had made, taking, I think, some biomaterial from whatever world they were on and combining it with bionics to create this Bigfoot. And so anyway, in this scene too, one of her colleagues has a little contraption here that they use with the flip of a switch to teleport. So they switch it, they're gone, and then they pop up somewhere else. So this whole show was laden with a bunch of predictive programming, very interesting stuff. So they send Bigfoot in to go out and abduct people, study them, and then bring them back. But they don't do that until first they wipe their memory. And here he puts on like a little headset-looking thing, and that supposedly removes all memory of anybody experiencing any of these scientists taking them in, studying them, and releasing them. And so that's the gist of it. So there's a lot more packed in there if you want to kind of see some patterns of what's going on now with earthquakes and what might be happening underground as well. you might want to have a look in at this show. All right, now let's move on. So here we are at the sky observations portion of the show. We're looking west. Oh, by the way, welcome if you're returning or if you're new to this channel. Thanks so much for being here if I didn't say that already. And I'm not going to repeat my usual, like what I'm doing here, why I'm doing it, and how I'm enhancing the photos. If you're new, I do invite you to look at a previous show to see what I'm doing there. I'm just going to jump right into this. So now I'm looking west toward the evening, and there just seemed, again, a weird flurry of unusual activity happening over what also looked like unusual artificial cloud. Oh, hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. And so we look at the right-hand side with enhancement, and, oh, sorry, to backtrack, on this left-hand side, the original, it didn't show up well here, but to the naked eye, I could see some type of spectrum, like rainbow kind of impression happening around this too, so that's what caught my attention also. And in addition to the movement and the strange way it was forming. And also that these things were coming off like at different angles while this is erupting up vertical. But anyway, we look to the right, and here you can see a little more of that rainbow, spectrum kind of activity happening there. We also start to see harder shapes kind of emerging out of this like blurry cloud. This is almost looking like triangular forms here, back to back on 8.1. And then again, these darker forms are doing yet again their own thing and look very different in character. And then also here at the front, this looks like a very clear triangular form, an outline of one at the front of whatever's going on there. And here we can see it a little bit better, what I just talked about. And here we get the range of color, and it's very bitmappy, very staccato, what I call looking like staccato cloud or staccato cloud effect, just because it's choppy and fuzzy to the naked eye, while other things are clear and sharp. And to me, that's always a sign of cloak and craft or something generating activity around it to do that, right? And so whether it's by heat or sound, sonics, whatever, microwave, I don't know. Anyhow, we start to see a very weird little story developing here as our little story goes along. So anyway, then we have these darker objects, which we'll try to get to as well. And actually, the more I look at it, C.1, we've got something almost triangular shape here, and it continues down this way. So actually, I would venture to say this overall thing is a cloak and craft, and we just have extra cloaks shooting off of it at the point of departure out of this bigger cloud, quote-unquote, mass. So here with extreme enhancement, blowing out the brightness and stuff, we see that what's happening over here is very different than what's happening with these darker objects. Here we have that pointed triangular form too, or it's, moving along as one bigger object. Maybe this overall thing hooks back and is also like arrow-shaped or something. Hard to say. See what you see in there. What's weird too is over here we get a very specific shape with straight edges, very mechanical machine part looking like over here. All right, then we look at it again with slightly different enhancement. I'm just going for maybe we see different elements pop out of this scene that might give us, a little more information about what's going on. I don't see too much more though. See if you do. See if you see any more in here. Now I'm just going to visit it one more time, just for the pure beauty of the, you can only see a little hint of the rainbow quality here, or spectrum quality, but you really see it here exaggerated. And I just love the color range, so that's just more for compositionally a nice image. All right, now this drew my attention looking west toward the evening. Look at this thing. That doesn't look like a normal cloud assembly. No way. I even start to see little rigid shapes and things popping up here and there. It's got a weird effect to it once again. So I don't really get it too much other than, well, actually, yes, I do. Take that back. Look here, if you follow my cursor, we're going to look under the B.1. There's a lot of oddities strewn all about this thing. Look how we have a straight line coming this way, and yet another one crossing across like a T-bar or a cross. That does not happen in natural clouds. Then we have this very straight tube-like thing coming down to a triangular shape, and there's something else happening over here. So to me, there's enough rigid structure being cloaked and camouflaged behind in here to say that this overall thing is a cloak and craft. Then we're going to jump, let's see, a little bit. Oh, now we're going to flip over to the east and see what's going on in the sky, because before that was to the west. And so now we have a weird standalone shape here and a triangular shape up here at A. So with enhancement, this is the alternate cover slide. We see this piece down here at C. Something dark is kind of forming in here. Other weird shapes backlit over here. And we see this triangular form here, or something with like two prongs coming into the scene. And look over here, I didn't even pick this one up. We've got little tick marks like a clock, like an old-fashioned clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. kind of in a spherical shape. To me, that's a machine part. So are we looking at that this is one big massive craft being cloaked by all of this weird, blur out activity, fog out activity, or are we dealing with multiple different craft? See what you think. Now we're going to just zoom in on this one element alone, just because it's very intriguing as a form, sky forms. Now again, is this one big craft, or is this one, like where the darker is, 1, 2, like 3, and then 4? Or is this the body of a craft with like bars to the sides with the wings, like a pontoon type effect? But I don't think so. I think we're dealing with a lot of interdimensional craft overlapping each other, because look how ghost-like this piece is. Unless this is the front of a craft and this is like the cockpit on the top, as part of one form, and this one just has to be a little more ghost-like in its cloak than down here, which is a little more materialized. I don't know. See what you think. What's also very curious about here is watch where we get the bursts of light. It's very telling too that this is like trailing a craft, and it's like bursting, and I don't know if this has a field around it, force field or toroidal field, or if it's just like emerged out of that, or if it's on the takeoff and we're seeing burst of light as if it's like zooming out of the scene. Hard to say. See what you think is happening there. Here's the form one more time, but in its overall context, shifting our view a little bit more to the north. And over here I start to see the end of an overall bigger shape happening like this. But anyway, when I put this enhancement on, what comes out is not only do we have this dark rigid shape or shapes, forms happening here, and again with some type of energy trail behind them, but also now we get something very interdimensional looking like in this whole scene. Can't quite pinpoint what that is, but we get more multiple forms. It's very intriguing. Alright, now we're going to go to a different part of town and look up from a parking lot over to the east. And this just started forming on its own, standalone in the sky. And then this is what we get. So again, straight edges. Look at that angle. That doesn't happen in a natural cloud in nature. We also start to get little holes along the rims of this thing. It's feeling very craft-like. We've got symmetry with these like curves coming out from each side, more or less symmetry anyway. So I'm going to call it a cloaking craft. We zoom in, and again, look at how sharp these edges are. It looks to me like something's like almost like invisible cloak, and we're just seeing some of the cloaking picking up along the rim of whatever these wings are, is what I'll call it. We've got geometric shape here, like a rhombus type thing. And again, look at this. This even looks like an ellipse with a divider, straight up and down in it, bisecting this form into 2 equal parts. So I see a lot of tech popping up along the rim here. I'm calling that an overall cloaking craft. Alright, now we're going to flip our attention to the west at a different location. And what was really weird is that we have this kind of quote-unquote cloud form below, which has like structure, looks like it has little tectonics in it, while we have this thing shooting across the sky. Now, I did see this real-time forming. The proportion of the band of what it's ejecting to whatever's creating it just seemed, it seemed really heavy-handed. And then we're going to zoom in on that little head piece, because it didn't look like a plane. I didn't see wings or anything. And it just looks like some kind of point or orb or elliptical form. So I can't tell you exactly what that is, but it doesn't look like a plane to me. See what you think it is. And also look at the color signatures. We've got this like indigo range and a warmer range on the trail. Alright, now we're going to look west, and this is another example of where I often find cloaking craft perched on the edge, the top of a quote-unquote cloud mass, which really looks artificial. It looks like a much bigger craft hiding, or multiple craft hiding in wherever I see this stuff on the rim. And so here too we get straight edges here of an outline of tracings of something that's wanting to form. So the juxtaposition of these two and the nature of, look at all these triangular forms you could see even to the naked eye here, definitely called me to do some enhancement on it. So we see this looks like some type of rigid form, cloaking, semi-cloaked. And then here we see all this like, look how specific these triangular forms are. That does not happen on a cloud. Look how different this is, even though I know it's an artificial cloud, even if you thought it was a natural cloud. Does this in any way resemble a natural form cloud? The answer is no. So we're going to look at B.1, zoomed in a little bit more. It is going to appear bitmappy and grainy on a bigger screen. But look at this, straight edge with a shadow. That's a triangular form, another triangular form. we are dealing with something that is designed with intelligence. No other way about it. What that is exactly, are we just seeing parts of a craft poking up out of this, or is this the craft stuff itself, or some type of technology? I don't know, but my personal feeling is that we're just seeing parts of cloaking craft sticking out the top of this cloud-like thing. All right, now we're going to look at it again later on. Look at the rim of this thing. And again, we've got some weird activity happening here. So this is the basis. This is the original photo of the enhanced one on the very cover of the show. So I start to see weird ellipsoidal forms, also very direct bar-like, stick-like forms. And in fact, they even crisscross and angle up. So we can only see that better with some enhancement here. Look at this thing. What the heck is that? Is that some type of craft parked on top, getting ready to launch off, or it just landed? Whatever the case, you're not going to have a cloud form very rigidly come down an angle and bank back out like at almost near right angle, and this thing come up and right angle again. So I'm definitely calling that cloaking craft or instrumentation, some type of object that's intelligently designed. And then we go in, move in a little bit more, bring some brightness just to pull out what the heck is going on here. What's really interesting and telling in this photo is that we've got a blue indigo color, kind of purple, floating around there. And yet this stuff crossing across has more of a greenish signature. So, and then again, we got cyan on top of all of it. So what the heck? And then black here, like this looks like even a separate object standalone over here, a rectangular form. See what you see, what's going on in here. This one is really, really perplexing. All right, now another part of town, another part of day, I think, looking at a cloud rim once again. And this time, this kind of came up looking like a flame, but then it had a very rigid structure, object happening right here. And then we have something wisp-like coming off, looks like it's shooting up out of the top of that thing. The overall cloud to this, by the way, felt extremely artificial. Definitely felt like something's up in here, something's cloaking massive in here, and that these look like little ships perched, and cloaking on the top of the rim. And here's with enhancement, we get some warm color down here where the sun is supposedly setting, and yet up here we've got intense pure white light backlight, which again, I think I noted in the previous show and also other previous shows. Got a very artificial white light tech parading around trying to be masquerading as our original sun. But no, the original sun has a golder, warmer tone, and this thing can be glared up in a wide field to cover our original sun or shrunken back down at will. Anyway, that's a whole other story of what artificial tech's happening there with the sun. Anyhow, back to our little rim here. I do see like a craft laying down here. Maybe you see it too, with some little cloaking material springing up around it. But this one, it's more evident what's going on. So maybe not, let me just say. So here we have like something's definitely with intelligence like swirling around, like popping up out of this thing. And then this starts to appear more and more rigid and mysterious by the second. We'll get to that. Look at it, looks like a little figure, like somebody at the waist, if this is the head, putting out an arm here, holding a stick with something on the end of it or something. It's really weird. And look at this piece, looks like a tuning fork, the end of a tuning fork popping out. Very symmetrical. This is really bizarre looking. But again, now look over at C.2. This looks like a very, rigid triangular form with something happening off the back of it. So to me, that looks like a craft. I'm not exactly sure what this thing is. And then we have something definitely flying off and like curving around off of this. So see what you think's going on there. Okay, now we're looking to the west and we see this arc of very strange, quote unquote, that's not a cloud, so what is it? It's like a supernatural wisp phenomenon. Cover that in previous shows. Some call it sylphs, if it's more of an elemental, an air elemental type configuration. Also, we have a geometrical sky imprint, like a triangular form happening over here. See what you think that is. Alright, another clear sky imprint of a triangular form. And I think it has a neighboring pointed elliptical form over here as well, with cloaking material floating over the front of all of it. We see with enhancement, look at this straight edge, flat line here. That's geometry. Looks like it's tucked behind a pointed elliptical form. So I'm calling that cloak and craft, and down here at C.12, we start to see engineered, regularized elements happening along in a line here and a straight line here. So to me, that's another cloak and craft. All right, well, this is the video of the day and the close of the show. I want to say thanks for popping over here a while. For anybody that's celebrated with fireworks recently, I want to say celebrating freedom, although I have to say my heart wasn't in it this time around because we have not seen true freedom in the country I'm living in. And we need to just rise up even higher, shine even brighter, and shine out that freedom ourselves. But anyway, I'm going to play this through, but what is happening lately is when I play these videos, I've noticed for whatever case on this format, it slows them down and like chops them up. It doesn't play it fluid, so we'll see what happens when I try to play it. Anyway, regardless of what's going on, I wish everyone tremendous peace and love. Let's see what's going on with this video. And I'll just play it one more time. And I just want to say that regardless of what's going on in the world, celebrate life each and every day. And you can do it as easy as smiling or taking in a nice inhale and exhale in the breath, going out in nature, connecting with animals, put your hand on a tree and just feel into it. Do whatever it takes. But again, if you're having a tough day, I send you a huge hug, a nice big family hug. And if you're having it easy and enjoying life, continue on and help keep uplifting this planet. All right. Love everybody. Take care. Bye.